welcome to today's video. Today I am doing my rendition of a prom look. So this is kind of the look I would do if I was going to prom this year, because it follows a lot of the trends and looks of the year, but isn't so overpowering that in like 30 years your kid's gonna be like, oh my god, mom, what the hell were you doing? So yeah, I mean, maybe they probably still will, let's be real. But it isn't, I think it's kind of incorporates everything. Like, it has a ton of highlight. I think I used three steps of highlight in this video, but it does have a matte look that will last all day long. So if you want to see how I did this look, then keep on watching. Okay guys, so first up we are going to be doing the priming portion of this video, and I am using the Nivea Ben Sensitive Post Shave Balm. I know that they have recently come out with a primer equivalent of this, but this is what I have, and I think it holds my foundation on really great all day and is super affordable, but you can use whatever kind of primer that you personally love for your skin, but I found that this works great for dry or oily skin. And then next up, I am going to be doing step numero uno, or number one, of my highlighting routine for this video, and I'm going to be using the Becca Shimmering Skin Perfector Liquid, and this is in the shade Champagne Pop, and I'm going to be putting this on all of the same planes of my face that I would wear highlighter typically. And what this is going to do is create like an amazing inner glow, or like glow from within, especially because we're going to be using some other mattifying products in this video. It's going to create quite a beautiful look, and I am using a beauty blender to blend that onto my face. And then I'm going to also use my finger to kind of smooth everything out, and then I'm going to go on the bridge of my nose, my cupid's bow and chin, and blend that bad boy out, and like I said, glow to the gods. And then I'm going to go in with the L'Oreal Paris Infallible Pro Matte Foundation. This is in the shade 102 Shell Beige. This claims to be a 24-hour foundation. I've never worn it for 24 hours, but it does hold up really, really well, especially in warm conditions or kind of sweaty conditions. So at a place like prom, where there's a lot of people and you're dancing and you're milling around, like, you definitely want to have a foundation that you know will hold on really well and not break apart. So this is a great foundation, in my opinion, for that, as well as it's super affordable. You can find it at any drugstore, Walmart, Target, any place like that. And yeah, this is honestly one of my favorite foundations of all time, let alone just from the drugstore. And then I have a few blemishes I want to cover up, but I'm going to just use the foundation for that, not a concealer. But if you need concealer, this is the step you would use for that now, or you could have put that on before you did your foundation. And then next, for under eye concealer slash any place I want to brighten on my face, I'm going to be using the Instant Age Rewind Eraser Dark Circles Treatment Concealer, and this is in the shade Light Pale. Surprise, surprise. And then I am using this underneath my eyes, and then I will do some highlighting, set this, and then go in and lighten up other places on my face. So I applied it here, and then I'm going to go in with a wet beauty blender, and I'm going to blend that out. And then next up, we're going to go in with the Cover FX Custom Enhancer Drops, and this is in the shade Celestial. And I'm going to be putting this in the exact same place I put that Shimmering Skin Perfector by Becca. So this is going to be going on my what's that called? Cheekbones and brow bone, like upper brow bone, so right above my eyebrow. And I am just going to be using a beauty blender to apply this. If you're using any kind of cream contour or highlight, definitely do not do that before you powder your face, which is now why I'm going in underneath my eyes and setting that concealer before I go in and do anything else. You could wait and conceal the rest of your face and then set it all at once, but for someone like me with really kind of crackly under eyes, I like to set it immediately because I want to avoid as much creasing as possible. And then now I'm going to go back in with that concealer I used underneath my eyes, which is a great one from the drugstore. And I'm going to use that concealer on basically everywhere. I would use a lightening concealer to contour. So the upper planes of the face, like the forehead, nose, brow bone, or cupid's bow, and chin. And then I'm going to go in with some Rimmel Stay Matte Powder, and this is in the shade 001 Transparent, and I am setting my whole face with this. So I'm using a big fluffy Morphe brush, and I am just patting that into the powder and then pressing it on the face. I do occasionally swirl, but I do try to press it in because that way I'm not moving any of the product that is underneath. And I was very exasperated. I don't know why, but always exasperated when powdering my face because I feel like it takes forever, but it is very important. Okay, so this is kind of an embarrassing step as we're about to see, but I am going to MAC Fix Plus my face, which is going to stop anything from looking dry or cakey, but I didn't have my fan with me, so I'm doing a very kind of like ratchet trick of using a highlighting sleeve to fan my face. Yeah. And then we're going to go in to a close-up of my eyes, and we are going to prime those bad boys. So as always, I am using the Urban Decay Eyeshadow Primer Potion in the shade Enigma. And I am going to actually prime from lash line to eyebrow. And this is super important to do because if you don't prime that whole entire area, you will get patchiness when you're trying to blend your crease and things like that. So that's why I definitely would focus on making sure you're getting it everywhere and you're getting it very even. And I actually even took this into my inner corner because I knew that I was going to be using some intense inner corner highlight and I wanted it to stick and last. So primer for your eyeshadows and honestly for your face is so important because it will keep those things locked in all day. And then I'm going to go in with that same Rimmel Stay Matte powder, and I'm going to set that primer with that powder. Very self-explanatory as you can see, but this is also super important because by putting this layer down, your eyeshadow will glide on better and you won't get any patchiness and it won't stick weird to that primer. And then I'm going to go in with this beautiful Morphe, can't speak, 35F palette. And I'm going to be going in with this kind of like reddish undertone tan color. Sorry, they don't have names, so you're going to have to deal with my ridiculous interpretations of these colors because I'm horrible at explaining what they look like. I'm like, it looks like a color that is kind of pretty on my eye. Anyway, but I'm doing windshield wiper motions and really packing that color into the crease. Sorry, my brother kept talking to me and distracting the living bejesus out of me. But we are going, yeah, like I said, windshield wiper motions. It doesn't get much more self-explanatory because I'm literally just doing the same thing. Windshield, 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 wipe, 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 wipe. Then we're going to go into the slightly more orangey, warmer tone color next to it. And I'm going to be doing the exact same thing. So I'm going to be overlapping those two colors, creating a good base, because as you saw in the intro, this is a red look, and you're not even going to tell I put these on, but they're really going to help those red shades blend beautifully, because red I found can be a little tricky if you are not very careful in your initial steps of applying. So I'm going to be going in with, like, come on, Emily. Oh, right. I'm going to be using my RCMA powder to clean up these lines because I'm going to start going in with some darker shades, and I don't want that line to get super crazy and rounded. I want a clean edge. So I'm using this RCMA powder and posing beautifully, and then I'm going to go in with these dark shades. And like I said, this RCMA powder is going to help keep everything clean and stop any fallout from really sticking there, etc. And so I'm using that darker shade going over the other two shades that I used, but I'm not going as intense with it. I'm just putting it on the outer corner. And then I'm going in with the Anastasia Modern Renaissance palette, or Modern Romance, yeah, Modern Renaissance palette. And I'm going to be using the shades Love Letter and Venetian Red at first. And I am just going to be putting this in the crease as well. So like I said, the red is the primary look. I don't want brown to be the primary kind of focal point of the look, but I needed to add those colors so everything would blend really beautifully. And then I'm going to go in with the darker, more true red, and that is called Red Ochre. And I'm just doing that on the outer corner of my eye. And then I'm going to go in with a clean brush and these two lightest shades in the Morphe palette. And these are matte. And I'm going to go in and clean up any harsh lines because I thought it looked a little bit harsh and I wanted everything to be smooth. Oh, so smooth and beautiful. That is literally just the worst thing that ever happens. I swear, when I'm ever opening eyeshadow palettes, I'm like, I'm going to dig into this shadow. Anyway, I have a wet brush that I got wet with MAC Fix Plus, and then I'm going to go in with that Morphe shade that I pointed to. It's kind of a rich, shimmery berry shade, and I'm putting this on the outer 3/4 to 2/3 to 3/4 of my eye. So it's not super precise, you just want it to be even upon both eyes. And I then am going to go in with the Anastasia palette in the shade Vermeer on a clean brush that I also got wet with MAC Fix Plus. And I'm putting this on the inner 1/3 to 1/4 of my eye, or 1/4 to 1/3 of my eye. And this is really going to lighten the eye up, keep it very bright, very awake, and I don't know, super beautiful. Anyway, dancing, just like I can't stop, won't stop. And I'm going to go in with this CoverGirl Advanced Radiance, and this is in the shade 110 Creamy Neutral, and I'm going to use this to brush off that under eye bake or kind of line cleanup stuff with the RCMA powder, as well as any fallout that may have happened, and like, pew, that smoke stuff. Then I'm going to be using those two original shades I put on my crease, or in my crease, and I'm using that underneath my eyes. And then I'm going in with Red Ochre just on the outer little portion of my under eye. Then I'm going to go in with this really bright, beautiful, shimmery shade in the Morphe palette, and I'm going to highlight the bejesus out of my brow bone and inner corner. And then next up, I have zoomed out and I have done my brows. So I use the Brow Wiz by Anastasia in the shade Caramel and Benefit Roller Lash for mascara. But I am going in with the Kat Von D Shade and Light palette, and I am using the shade Sombre, I believe. And, well, maybe I'm not using Sombre. I don't actually know. I'm using the lightest brown shade, and that's I think that's Sombre or Subconscious. To be honest, I have no idea. And yeah, like I said, it's the lightest one, and I'm using this to blend into the hollows of my cheeks, and then I also go underneath my jawline. So I do this to kind of create a carved, chiseled look because that's something that I really enjoy, and I have said many times before, I feel like if I wear makeup, I can't leave wearing makeup and no contour because it's just like, I'm just one of those bitches that's like, contour or nothing. So blending, blending, blending. That is super important, is to check all the angles of your face or all the ways people could be looking at you and seeing how it looks. Now, this is an extremely extra step, and you do not by any means need to use a Marc Jacobs bronzer, but I wanted to use this one. This is an Omega bronzer by Marc Jacobs. But there are so many great bronzers from the drugstore that honestly I think I probably use drugstore bronzer more than anything else. Physicians Formula has amazing bronzers. Check those out because they, like I said, are fantastic. Butter bronzer or the bronze booster, like top notch. Do not feel like you need to spend $60 on a bronzer for prom. So yeah, disclaimer over. And then I'm going to go in with some RCMA powder, and I'm going to clean up my contour a little bit. So I'm just going to let this bake under here to clean everything up and make sure that the line, I want it to be harsh, but I don't want it to be, you know, I want it to like be like, let's cut someone harsh, or, you know, something like that. But I want it to be beautiful. So we're going to pose, we're going to let that sit, and then we're going to go in with a blush. Again, so extra. You do not need to use a Marc Jacobs blush. This is in the color Kink and Kisses if you do like it. However, Wet n Wild has amazing blushes for you to use. So I would check out the drugstore and just go for something that's matte or has just a luminosity to it, not something that's chunky glitter, because we are doing more highlighting even after this. So you want to go with something that isn't too overpowering, so then that way you don't look cray in all of your pictures, because if you go too much, your pictures will have a lot of flashback. But yes, as my face indicated, I'm super excited about this step, and this is the Anastasia Nicole Guerrero Glow Kit, and I am using those lightest 3 shades, and that is in Kitty Cat, Forever Lit, and Forever Young. And I'm using this again in the same places I've been highlighting this whole time, and then it's on the brow bone, not on the brow bone, above the brow bone, can never say that right, on the cheekbone, down the nose, on the cupid's bow, on the chin, etc., etc., etc. But before I highlighted on the rest of my face, I was like, oh wait, we have this bake on, so let's wipe that off. And like I said, I didn't want it to be on there crazy or do anything insane. I just wanted it to kind of clean everything up and make my jaw even a little bit more defined. Okay, and we are in the final stretch, and I am using the Wet n Wild Photo Focus All Day Wear Setting Spray, and I coated my face in that, and then I went in with the shade Gemini by Jeffree Star. I thought this was a great shade that kind of complemented the red look, but wasn't so overpowering. But you can go with any other, kind of shade you think would go really well. I know that Wet n Wild and Jordana both have some great liquid lipsticks that I think are very similar or pretty good dupes for Jeffree Star. They don't have the crazy colors, but if you're looking for some neutral shades at the drugstore in a liquid lipstick formula, check that out. Okay guys, so that is it for this look. If you liked it, make sure to go give my video a big thumbs up. Hank, come here. Make sure to go give my video a big thumbs up, as well as subscribe. That would mean a lot to me and my video charismatic dog. So I will see you guys next time. Like I said, make sure to subscribe. It really supports my channel and it means like so much to me. So I will see you guys next time. Bye!